Welcome to The Healing Equation. I'm Grace, the founder of Agora Health.
And my name is Jasmine, founder of Body in the City.
In this series, we explore women's health, well-being and healing in the modern world, speaking to experts, innovators and advocates in the space to help you along your wellness journey.
So take a seat, get comfy and join us for another empowering episode.
Our next guest is a woman whose work is centered on guiding others back home to their bodies, their cycle, and their ancestral wisdom. She holds space for birthing, for bringing life into this world, whether that's babies, dreams, or creative visions. And she supports women through womb wellness, fertility, birth preparation, and postpartum healing. Her vision is to see women everywhere take up space, living in sovereignty and power, and cultivating lives filled with love, creativity, and connection. We are so honoured to welcome Simone Dyer to The Healing Equation.
Hello. Oh my goodness, what a welcome. Thanks. I'm like, wow, all of that. Thank you.
We're so excited for this conversation. Aren't we, Jasmine?
Yes. I love the topic of birth and babies and nature.
Yes.
So, yes, we're really excited to have you here. I mean, I've been following your journey for a few years now on Instagram, so it felt natural, it felt right to invite somebody who could give us the ins and outs of being a birth worker and a doula.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. Yeah, it's really nice to be here.
Yeah, and Jasmine already knows what this all was. I didn't. I don't have any kids, so I had to do a bit of Googling as to what a doula is, birth worker, what that all is. So for people who might not know like me, can you tell us what is the difference between a doula, a birth keeper, a birth worker? What do all these terms mean?
Of course, yes, absolutely. So really, I think it comes down to your own feeling about, your own calling and your work and the way that you work. Mm-hmm. So, it's all birth work. All of the terms relate to birth work. I think doula is the term that many of us recognize. Mm-hmm. I feel like most of the time when I say, oh, yeah, I'm a birth worker or I'm a doula is what they're going to understand more.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's just, more familiar. Mm-hmm. But essentially it's somebody, that supports women whilst they are in their pregnancy, sometimes even from fertility, through their birth and postpartum. And, you can also have death doulas as well. So all sorts of doulas, yeah.
Oh, I'd love a deaf doula.
I knew she'd say this.
Yeah. I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah. Oh, I think we've got another podcast coming there.
Oh, right. That's opened a can of worms.
Noted. And I think for me, I resonate with the term birth worker or birth keeper more. Yeah. They're one in the same.
Yeah.
But I think there's something for me so sacred about birth and, just it's really about honouring the full spectrum of the journey. And for me, it's a very spiritual work. Mm-hmm. I think that's the essence of it, and really connecting to, the sacredness of the whole journey. And so, doula is just a bit more of a term that's, more recognised. So it's the same role, but I would say the difference in being a birth keeper is it's expanding beyond just sort of supporting someone throughout their journey and, postpartum, etc. Mm-hmm. And it's more about, I would say being somewhat of a space holder. Maybe some might resonate as like a gatekeeper for birth work. So it's not just inside the birth room, it's like, for me, birth work is a calling. And so doula is, we understand that term. Yeah. But it doesn't feel to me that it encompasses everything that I do, especially, the more spiritual aspect, I would say. And so, for me, it speaks to the calling, birth keeping, because it speaks to the sacredness.
Yes.
That's incredible. And how do women typically find a doula or a birth worker? I mean, the term, it feels, for me, only like something I resonated with being like a European or an American term. It's only when I had my own baby that I realised, oh wait, you can actually have a doula that can advocate for you and be there for you in your 4th trimester and help you with your prep. How does a woman go about finding a doula? Because it's not something that NHS readily makes available to you, sadly. And
sadly indeed.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel that there's a lot of information unless you really dig for it. That's just like at your fingertips. So how do women find people like you?
So unfortunately, yes, as you said, NHS don't necessarily, recommend doulas, but some midwives, will. I don't think they're necessarily allowed to, but they might ask, oh, have you got a doula, or have you thought about having one, etc. I think typically it's about one's own preparation, and like you said, you learn a bit more when you came to, being pregnant and having your own child, and I think that's very true for many women, in that when they are either wanting to have a baby or they get pregnant, it's like, okay, what are the things you do? And thanks to social media, we have a lot of information just at our fingertips, and so I think it's in preparation. Or the other really common thing is word of mouth. Like if you happen to have a friend who's already gone through the journey and had a doula, they'll be like, you need to have my doula or a doula. And so, I would say it's generally sort of out of those two, or, unless some of my friends who are, your friends directly with a doula or someone in birth work, then you might have heard about a doula more than sort of your average.
Because it's not like a new age thing, being a doula and a birth worker. It's that's like for generations, and in multiple different countries they always have women that support other women to give birth, right?
Exactly.
It just feels like mostly in the West that we've made it births such a hospitalized experience, or made it like a medical experience, where it needn't be. It should be like the most natural experience that a woman can go through.
100%.
So it does feel like birthing this new generation of doulas in this new age is a good thing, but almost not a new thing, because it's like we're just kind of reinventing the wheel a little bit.
100%. And that, again, coming back to what we were speaking about in terms of the difference in the word doula and birth keeping, and again it's the sacredness, it's the tradition. So even I've been referred to, or could refer to myself as, like a traditional midwife, because when I explain, and it actually often is men that will ask me and say, so what is that? So you're like a midwife? And I'm like, well, yes, but not in the medical sense. I am not medically trained, but generations ago, as you mentioned, it was our grandmothers, it was our aunties, and for me that's where the sense of the calling comes from, in that when I am in and like present for this work, a lot of the time just as a witness, it just feels a certain way to me, and that's how I know it's a calling. It's not like a job that I went and looked for, and not to say that pathway is wrong, but again, you have, for example, lots of people that are like, oh, I'm maybe thinking about doing some work in this field because I've worked in this field, and then they find the pathway of a doula, and so that's relative too. But for me it's definitely more, it's felt like it kind of came into fruition very organically, and definitely feels like a heavily spiritual work. As well.
So tell us a bit more about that experience of how, like, your first time witnessing a birth, how that felt, because obviously you keep referring to it as a calling, so like that must have been quite a significant experience for you in your life.
Absolutely, yes. Oh gosh, I'm like, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. So I came to sort of birth work through body work, actually, and I was working with. I wasn't working. I was actually having a treatment with a lady called Dr. Gowri Motha. She founded the Gentle Birth Method, and she's an amazing childbirth pioneer. And so I was actually getting a treatment, just supporting my own cycles with her. And I was also at a time in my life where I really wanted to transition, but I was in a place of searching, essentially. And just in that sort of connection with her, she was like, you're a healer, you should come and work with me. And I was just like, whoa, when you hear that from someone who you really respect, and it was only the first time I'd met her, I was a bit like, and kind of immediately wanted to shrink. But also there was something that was like landed in my spirit and was just like, boom. And as soon as I started, sort of spending time and, really learning from her and soaking up the wealth of knowledge, I was just like, this is where I'm meant to be. And so she taught me the modality of creative healing, which is part of the bodywork that I do. I'm sure we'll touch a bit more on that later. And essentially, I then started treating mothers who were, working through fertility and pregnant and then also postpartum. And so I attended my first birth with Dr. Gowrie.
Yeah.
And it was the most beautiful. I mean, all birth is beautiful. Just, I think in terms of maybe the things that I'd expected or what, I'd seen, it was just a very serene water birth. So to have that for my first experience and now having done this work many years and knowing how different birth can look, I was like, wow, it was honestly amazing. And I was working actually at another job that I was still doing part-time. Got the call of like, oh my gosh, like gotta go. Had to get across London on a Saturday afternoon. I'm pretty sure it was loads of traffic. And anyway, just got there and actually she'd gone, her labour moves quite quickly. And I just remember sort of being in the room. It was the father, it was the first time I met him because he worked away. And so I met him for the first time in the birth room. But he was amazing. And we just all like hit it off and had this great, like we were dancing in the room. I remember playing Pharrell Happy. That was like their song. I remember them like dancing around and Gowrie, me and Dr. Gowrie being there and her just like guiding me to support doing some like reflexology points and different massage throughout her labour. And then she was in the water and I was sort of leant over the pool supporting her, like arm behind her back, one on her leg and her partner doing the same. And and then this beautiful entry of this wonderful little boy. And it will forever be imprinted, and just like there's just the magic of it, and I think the energy of birth is just something
magical about it.
So magical, so potent, so sacred about it that
that sounds incredible.
Love it.
That's like your perfect birth, if you could.
Pretty much.
Yeah, if she could. Imagine
I say Grace stuff
like
all the time. I'm like, Grace, look at this on Instagram. She's like, no. So he talks about that first experience and then going there and then meeting the husband for the first time. What is that dynamic typically like? Like being in a room with the father or the partner and the mother, potentially even like a midwife, whomever's there. What is that like? Like, how do you interject yourself into that sacred space with the partner as well? Like, is it received well? I'm assuming it is because they know that you're a service that they're paying for. But how do you slot yourself in without like kind of taking away his shine and not getting in his way, but also allowing him to be part of the process, but still advocating for the mum and supporting the whole birth journey? Like, how do you?
That's a great question. I love that you've like raised that. So preparation and beforehand. So that was a really rare occasion that I wouldn't meet, the father or the birth partner. So and because in that scenario, for example, I was assisting Dr. Gowrie, so she had met him. So there was a familiarity with her. And so typically, I will always ask to meet the birth partner. That's just a standard of the way that I work. And it's not about, like being pushy. It's because I want, them to have the most gentle, safe, beautiful birth experience they can. And that means everyone feeling at ease. That, it just makes sense, right? And so, I just always asked, and most of the time, most people want their, they have someone at their birth, whether it's the, the father or, other parent or other loved one. So, I think just doing the preparation with everyone, talking about, the environment and, what we want what they want that birth to look like and to feel like, and just really including them, because I think especially for fathers, a lot of the time, I've had a lot of clients where they don't, it's a bit like they've got to convince, or they want me to convince dad as to why, why I'm needed. It's like, pitch yourself on this first call, please. I need, and often it can be connected to money of like, he's paying for it, so we've got to make sure, but, and sometimes it's completely, the opposite. But essentially it's just, also saying that I'm there for them too.
Yeah.
It's not just the mother, that it's not just who's giving birth. It's, you know, I am also, honouring the room. And so when, as you said, like with midwives, there are many midwives who like really get on well with having doulas and respect the role, just as we respect the role, you know, as a midwife. But there are also clashes sometimes. And I think I try to navigate that by remembering it's not about me.
Yeah.
And so even if something is jarring me, or I feel like, you know, this is not honouring what the mother wants, then I will, you know, maybe I'll have a chat with somebody outside.
Yes.
Or, you know, navigate, just so that it's not, because we don't want to bring adversity into the space. The whole point is that we're keeping it calm and sacred, and, you know, and so it's, you know, always putting it back to, you know, my client, like, how are you feeling? What do you want? Or if I feel like there's some coercive language being used, how does that sound to you? How do you feel about that? And sometimes as well, it just reminds, you know, sometimes whether it's like a medical staff, to sort of, you know, check themselves. What language are you asking for consent here? Because
informed.
Sovereign being, you know, and I do work with my clients and prepare them, you know, to be that way. Like, I'm not going to be your voice, but equally, you know, obviously with their permission, you know, part of the reason they want me there is to advocate. And sometimes you do have to step in that way, because you're so vulnerable in the most beautiful and powerful way when you're giving birth.
We had a midwife join us earlier in the season. She's incredible, and she was really open to having doulas. She mentioned, like, I have no problem with doulas, and she was like really forthcoming. And she did mention that she was almost somewhat grateful to doulas because they were able to do what she or other midwives necessarily couldn't do and couldn't offer. And I guess it's that like whole journey support. And she did say that, she's like, you know, resources and time, you know, doesn't always give you that like time with mum. It's very much about baby when you give birth, and it kind of felt, maybe just for me, like mum's kind of an afterthought. Kind of, you kind of get that feeling like, and in birth you almost want to be the afterthought as well. You kind of don't want them fussing over you, like just
make sure the baby's
make sure they're okay. But only later on do you realize, oh, actually I probably needed a bit more support at that point.
100%.
Or I needed like tending to, or I needed someone to just like see if I was okay and offer me something to drink. And I think that's maybe what's missing in midwifery a little bit. Not for everybody. Some people get fantastic midwives and partners and
but they're
doulas,
stretched, you know.
But they're extremely stretched, you know. So having both would be such a blessing and, you know, such a great thing to have. How does it work in terms of like in hospital settings though? Because I've only ever heard of people having doulas at home.
Yeah, true.
Are you allowed, not allowed, is allowed the right word? Like post-vid and there's like a number of people you can have in the rooms now, but are you allowed in hospital spaces? How does it work in different hospital environments?
Yeah, a great question. I am allowed, yes. Essentially, most hospitals or trusts are allowing, for want of a better term, two people, two birth partners. But yes, during that very challenging time, it was one. And that was really challenging for many people.
Just to get this straight, I'm only allowed two people in the room when I give birth.
Two of your people. So not, you know, you can have whatever midwives, and if you're in a hospital.
But just two of my...
Yes. So for often people, that's like a...
And during vid, you wasn't allowed,
you know, the parent and like the mother-in-law or sister, friend, or for some people it's generally, you know, father or parent and
I had
doula.
mum and Adam, and that was.
But I'm only allowed two.
Yes.
Well, depends. If you go private,
if you go private, because if I'm going to be doing a birth, I need everybody to see it.
Why?
Oh, you want everyone to see it?
Yeah, I want everybody in the room.
More support than that.
Well, I need more support, but I'm going to need more. I'm going to need I know I'm demanding. Two people can't handle me giving birth. That's too much. I'm going to need more than that.
She'll take it back when it's in the moment. Everybody out.
Do you think? I don't know.
You're not going to want a whole audience.
It's so nice in the Kardashians when it's 1,000 people in the room.
Well, you say that, but then, you know, everyone's different. Some people, they do, you know, they work well being observed. But generally the consensus is when you're giving birth and when you think of, you know, animals and like that very primal way. It's actually, you know, not being observed, often going into like a dark space, or, you know, animals will go into their caves or their dens or whatever, and often sort of go through that like very much a solo process. Obviously we're humans, we don't, you know, we can absolutely have support, and that's great. So sort of in the hospital setting, I will totally forgot the question.
If you were allowed in the hospital.
Am I allowed in the hospital?
Which you kind of answered,
Yeah, okay. So,
but to add to that, another question, obviously there is a little bit sometimes of contention with midwives saying, don't rely too much on your doula, or they feel like doulas, like we talk about self-advocacy, but I think sometimes some people, to like play devil's advocate, think that doulas kind of influence mums into making decisions they wouldn't necessarily make. So for you, navigating that, like how, I mean, I guess in every profession you have people that maybe don't necessarily do it with sincerity and integrity, and that's normal, exactly. But why do you think there is that kind of difficulty a little bit sometimes between the medical industry, midwives, obviously like birthing in a hospital space, and the, you know, doulas or people that are there to kind of advocate for the mums? Is it more something, I guess, that's kind of a kind of societal stereotype that we've just laid out there, you know, as we do with many things? Or do you think sometimes maybe there is a little bit of kind of difficulty there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can be quite layered, but essentially it is what we've been conditioned towards. And the fact is that, you know, you touched on it earlier, birth is not a medical experience that sometimes happens naturally. It is a natural experience, a natural journey that sometimes needs medical intervention.
I love that.
But because we live in the Western world, and also, you know, I have to say there is a privilege in that we have access to free healthcare, and, you know, the fact that healthcare often saves lives, mothers, babies, and obviously other, but in speaking about this, and I think that there can be some feelings, some tenderness between the sort of the doula and the midwife, because, you know, in truth as well, of course there's going to be doulas that can be maybe coercive or persuasive, or they are speaking for their client. Now, you know, that's horrendous to think about, because you're not being integral to your role. But also, even, you know, there's even a vulnerability sometimes in being a doula, in that sometimes I can understand it from the perspective of wanting to protect your client, but you've got to make sure that you are not doing the same and being and that for me is in the preparation, and understanding who is your client, and even prior to that, getting to the preparation, for me, I go very much off energy. So I will have, you know, I don't just say yes to someone, to working with someone or a family just because I'm available. I have to feel some sort of energetic, spiritual connection, resonance. You know, there has to be an alignment. Essentially, that's my personal way of working. Others may be different and maybe treat it as like, well, this is a job, you know, it's for a period of time, and you know, and that's relative, because there's also people out there that, you know, do see it as like, well, you're here to be for my, and it's not that deep, as it were. Whereas for me, it's deep, and I find I will attract the people that, you know, I'm meant to work with or learn from. Well, I'm always learning from all of them, but you know, I have also worked with people where it's like, you know, I regret nothing, but I learn things that, you know, maybe if I'd have followed that feeling, you know, this would have been different, or maybe I wouldn't have taken that client on, you know, much earlier on. I had to pay attention to a lot of those feelings. But, and also to say with that, I think, you know, in terms of the medical system, it is exactly that. It's a system set up to work in a certain way. And sometimes, you know, there are so many midwives that I've worked with that have been amazing. And, you know, as you said, that midwife that you had on was like, they're super supportive, and, you know, let us do our work, and, you know, they come in and they do ours. And essentially what it should be is that we're a team, you know, because we want the same outcome. And for me, that is well mother and well baby.
Yeah.
Never well baby at the expense of the mother, where we can help, right? Because the mother's the person that is primarily going to take care of the baby. So if mum's mash up, literally, like of course that's going to trickle down to baby. So it can't be, we've got to really come away from this like anything. And of course we're going to have that primal protect my baby. Yes, but we don't have to sacrifice the mother, on the way. But I think there's work to be done between midwives and doulas. But, also, as I said, they're following their protocols.
Yeah.
And you just have to know, I do tend to attract a lot of people that want to birth outside the system, outside the medical system, or at home with some medical support. Yeah. Often still want very much hands off. It's like if absolutely necessary. Okay. But yeah, I have supported many births that have maybe needed to transfer or wanted to transfer to hospital. Yeah. And, I always just try to bring an energy of like, hi, this is who I am. Yeah. Who are you and how are you? And just try and build some rapport. Yeah. To say like, I'm not here to step on your toes, but I am here to, support my client. Yeah. And, I hope that we can be a team. And, I don't necessarily say it like that, but I think that's the energy I will try to come with. Yeah. Again, it's not about me. It's about the client. So let's focus on them. But yeah, there's definitely work to be done. But I think we've also come a long way.
So I have a question on a word you've mentioned a couple of times now, which is preparation. And I'm really keen to know, what type of preparation goes into becoming somebody's doula, and how long is that journey? Like, when do you become someone's doula? From what point until which point?
Okay, as in like when you start working with them.
So when can somebody appoint you?
Because I guess they can appoint you whenever, but for the best result. Relationship.
That's a great question. I think it's so individual because it depends, it definitely depends on the doula or the birth worker, birth keeper that you get and how they work. So, as a birth keeper, I have a certain, like my package or my offering, and most of the time that's working from around 5 months, 6 months. But I have worked with people from 8 weeks pregnant. I've also worked with people prior to them being pregnant. So, I do a lot of work around fertility and that's probably, one of my sort of, the biggest focus area, certainly at the moment. And so you can really, it's any time. There isn't a specific time. And again, it's circumstantial. So for example, you might have a family, for example, that have maybe had previous losses. And so actually from really on in a pregnancy, they want and need emotional support because there might be a lot of fear. There might be things to sort of work through, and that they want someone to support them from much earlier on. So, I have, a sort of general guide as to when I will work from, but I will take every connection into account. If someone contacted me, I wouldn't be like,
it's too late,
at 12 weeks, it's too early. But some people will, because they, and especially when it comes to first trimester, people are very sensitive about that. I feel really confident in working with someone at that time. Yeah. But I think that's experience, that's years of experience, and it's being a body worker too. Yeah. So, there is, I would definitely say like an optimal time, I think, is like the sooner the better in terms of preparation, right? The think the reason
the more you know about the person, the better.
Exactly, the rapport. And that being said, again, each sort of birth keeper or a doula will have their sort of amount of prenatal sessions that they do and the amount of postnatal sessions, that they do. So you sort of get, more time to chat, to build rapport, to, meet the partner and, just get a feel for each other. I think for me, if I want somebody in my birth space,
you want to know them.
I want to know who you are. Like, you're going to be like, this is a forever moment imprinted on everyone in the room, So
you mentioned you do a lot of work with fertility, which of course nowadays I think has become obviously so huge, just with infertility rates like becoming so much higher in men and women, because I think we often think about infertility, just the woman, and a lot of stress on your ovaries, the state of your eggs, and this and that. And we don't talk enough actually about male infertility, and especially now how much that is actually a problem and very common. So let's dive a little bit more into that. What does working with a doula for fertility look like? What are you there to support with? And I assume you work also with men and women in a couple, or regardless of what that couple looks like. But what does that journey look like if somebody's maybe thinking, oh, we'd like to get pregnant? What are your services that you're offering?
Yeah, so great questions. I love this. To sit here for hours. So for me, the fertility aspect is a lot more around the body work. So, I mean, it is all encompassing, especially as I said, you know, I've supported people that I've worked with them in a bodywork sessions prior to them then becoming pregnant and then, you know, being their birth support. So I generally get women coming to me who are, you know, wanting to have a baby, also have, you know, maybe have had different things going on over the years, inflammatory conditions, the endometriosis, the fibroids, the PCOS, you know, all of the different spectrum. And so it's really looking at what, you know, what's happening. And I try and work from a really wholesome view, you know, or not try, I work from a really holistic and holistic with the W in front, like the whole picture. And I'm actually currently doing some additional training. It's called STREAM, which is Scar Tissue Remediation, Education and Management. And so that's gearing towards becoming a pelvic specialist. And so within that, the framework of that, the teacher is Dr. Ellen Heed, and she teaches from this aspect of 4 domains. So you're looking at sort of biomechanics, so like the way the body works, the biochemistry of the body. So we're looking at like hormones and, you know, there's loads of different sort of subsectors, but then emotions and scar tissue and or scars, should I say, not just scar tissue, because scars can be
physical, mental,
absolutely, emotional scars. So we're looking at a whole picture. So generally when we're, you know, when I'm holding space for sort of fertility sessions, it's not just, okay, well, you know, yes, I can do massage on your tummy and we can work around, you know, doing the creative healing that I learned with Dr. Gowrie, you know, that's super helpful. But actually we're looking at your lifestyle, your emotions. What is your relationship with yourself like? Yes, your relationship with your partner. And then often it's about like referring to other specialists, because I also, you know, I'm not the guru of all things. And so, you know, I also want to stay, you know, I stay in my lane, but I've also continuing to build great connections with other body workers, practitioners, doctors, whatever it may be, you know, to be able to point clients in the right direction. But often they also have maybe got doctors already, or they've had certain tests, you know. So I get people at all different stages in their journey. And so I would say that then when it comes to working with men, that tends to come more in the doulaing aspect at the moment. That might shift, because I'm shifting the way that I work, and as I said, with more of the focus on sort of fertility. So but it really is. It's great that you touched on that. There is such a focus on the woman, but actually we should be looking at the man too. And what's the male sperm, not just the count, but the health. And, you know, we can go quality.
Don't get me started on quality of sperm.
You know, it's deep. We could go test the DNA. We could, you know, go to a naturopath and do some deep dives on, and so it's, you know, as I said, I'm really working now from those 4 domains of health and taking into account like the whole picture, because it's never just one dimensional. We're multi-dimensional beings.
Absolutely, I think we were briefly talking off camera before about trauma and like stress from experiences, which obviously you've just touched upon. But I was saying, and I've said this before, but I think one of the things that slightly scares me of birth is having had a lot of chronic pain, and I suffer with fibroids. I've had a very difficult health journey. The thought of birth really scares me. Any form of pain in my uterus, and even period pain. The minute I get period pain, I panic because I don't know how far that pain's going to escalate. So how much does kind of that emotional, especially for women, that we do tend to suffer more heavily with chronic pain, and like you mentioned, whether that's endometriosis, adenomyosis, PCOS, how much do you see that play a role, not just in fertility, but also in that pre-birthing process of kind of really traumatizing and, I guess, impacting our experience? So if you've been through that pain, do women tend to just be more afraid, or like what do you need to work through as a woman to be able to get, because I love the way you speak about birthing as being such a kind of calm, peaceful, beautiful process, but for me, when I think of it, I just think of like pain and fear and really being afraid.
And Hollywood and what we've been seeing on the TV of like
it's all you see on TV.
Water's breaking everywhere, screaming, red in the face, pinned down to a bed, and it's a lot. But it's really like relative and so beautiful that you've even that you shared aspects of your own journey. So I really like just honor and celebrate that, and I think that, of course, it impacts, so many women, so many are experiencing, the things that we've mentioned, these inflammatory conditions. And it ultimately it's coming back to what is your connection to your body? How do you feel about your body? And that plays such a huge part, in fertility, because the mind is so powerful. And obviously you've had very visceral experiences. And for example, I can't just turn up and say, let's say if I'm your birth keeper or whatever, and you've become pregnant, like, with me, you're safe, I'll support you. And so, your pain's going to be minimal. That would be absolutely ridiculous, because me telling you you're safe doesn't mean you feel safety in your body, or me telling you that it's not going to be painful, which isn't something I would say anyway, but I'm just using an example, that that you're not going to feel pain. I can't be the measure of what you're going to feel. I can't feel what you feel in your body. And so again, it would be preparation. So I have worked with women from earlier on, in their journey who have, I have a lot of clients who have and are going through fertility treatment. So, the IVF, and that is a super rigorous process. And the emotion, it's a lot. Just whatever whatever your journey to sort of becoming pregnant, it has to be honored. There has to be some space for it. Otherwise it will play out in your pregnancy, in your birth, and beyond, especially in your or maybe not especially, but just throughout, because it's such a transformational time, that transition from maiden to mother, without even having gone through any of that stuff. I'm sure, Jasmine, you can relate in that, just in the sense of everything feels like it's up for review. All of your own stuff can come up when you're pregnant and when you've had a child, things about yourself, your past, your parenting, the way you've been parented. Absolutely. It's like so much. So I think it is so key to, in terms of support, having not just body work, and I don't mean just massage, but looking at the emotions. Have you even just been witnessed? Is the most powerful things. I've had sessions where I will get clients to just name what's present now. When you feel into your womb space, what is present, and there will be some level of relaxation with that, so they are really in their body. And just name what's there. This is a space where you can say anything. I do my best to cultivate a safe environment. That's we're all humans, so we can't say without judgment. We make our judgments, but we don't lead from them, right? So you can come as you are, and just naming, and you'd be astounded, or not maybe, the things that come up, and things that our people are holding on to that sometimes they don't even realize. But actually just tuning in that moment, they're like, whoa, I didn't even know. And then tears come, and I haven't even put my hands on anyone. And again, it's not, I remove myself from the situation. It's not about me. It's like, what's going on with you, in you, and how can we give space for that? Because sometimes people do just need to be witnessed or heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so important as well. And I hope people who watch that, who may be experiencing anything to do with that, it resonates with them. Because I think when I was having my son, the same happened with me. You have so much feelings like all the time, and they fluctuate. And it's not just, I mean, it is hormonal, but equally it's like what you said, you're just tapping into how you were raised. You're tapping into like what you thought you knew and now what you know, and your own body and how in tune you are with your body and what your body needs. And it's like everything is very 4K when you're pregnant.
That's a good way of putting it.
Everything is very
HD.
It's very, very strong in colour and pungency. And if you're not aware to be mindful of that or to be like to look out for that, it can startle you. It can set you back. And if you're not quite emotionally intelligent or emotionally available, it can like help you push people away, push yourself away, hold on to these tensions and feelings. So yeah, I absolutely agree. Like if you are becoming pregnant or are pregnant or think about getting pregnant, to also like, if you don't pay for someone to help you to go through that transition, at least hold space for yourself.
Absolutely. And
all the way
like
through.
before, I think something that I'm also really passionate about is, you know, let's really try our best to not wait until we want to have a baby. Wait till we require something of our body and of our womb space in particular to tune in. Because then there's like, not all the time, but if you are someone that, you know you've been through a journey of different things, whether it's health related, emotional, all of that, you know, give yourself that space and time because you deserve that. Never mind before you're trying to call in new life, you know. And it's just about, you know, it's not about perfectionism. Like we're humans, we're all here to have our relative experience. And as the child or the children that we might be calling through, if that's our pathway, you know, it's very... It's such a potent time, but the best medicine is like being able to tune into yourself and, you know, your own well-being. Like what is the, you know, I love the term, like what is the state of the garden of your womb? If you think of your womb as a garden, you know, you want this beautiful aesthetic garden, which could be, you know, a baby or, you know, children, or the visions, the dreams that you have for yourself. So in order to get to that garden, it's going to take some work. We've got to start at the seed level. But what about when we go to plant the seeds and then they're getting swallowed up by the weeds? Oh, okay. So now before we plant the seed, actually we have to go in deeper in the soil. We have to dig up the weeds and work with that. So we're tending to the soil. And that's how I try and, you know, frame working with clients around, you know, womb wellness to feel into it. What are you, if it's your space of creation, what are you creating? What is the environment you're creating in, and how is that going to nurture your goal or your vision to have a baby? You know?
And that's beautiful. And I think it's so important because as women and young girls, we're not taught about our bodies, especially not our wombs. So you grow up never thinking of it really. And then most of the time, I would say the majority of us women will only think about it because we have a problem that tends to be something negative. So whether that's period pain or a bad experience, a traumatic experience. And so ultimately, the first time you think of your womb or you even think about the whole area is through a negative lens or pain or something. So I love what you just said, because I actually think we as women need to focus more on really the same way you take care of, like we were saying this with Tasha, we had Tasha on, a psychotherapist, but we forget to take care of our minds. We forget to take care of our wombs. Like we forget that these things are there. We'll go to the gym because we want to look good and we want to get muscle or we want to lose weight. But you totally forget about all the other things that are actually so important and fundamental. And I think as women, the idea of womb wellness and really taking care. And also I love what you said about not just sort of thinking about this when you want to try and get pregnant, because I think one of the biggest issues for us as women, particularly in the UK, where a lot of women don't even go and see a gynecologist until they're pregnant or with a baby or something is wrong. We have no idea. Like you just don't engage brain and womb, brain and uterus. You have no kind of connectivity. And then I also think that we live in a society where then you want something and you want it straight away, but you could be holding onto so many things. And maybe now all of a sudden you're 35 and you want to get pregnant,
But your garden's a mess.
Your body's not going to...
Your garden needs
your
some
garden's a
work.
mess,
Yeah.
and your body's not going to follow. And I
Yeah.
think, I think just thinking about not just what we want at the right time, but actually preparing our bodies for it.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, you talk a lot about body work.
Yeah.
I know, Jasmine, you do that as well. I'm somebody, I've never had it done. I've heard a lot about it. But for somebody who hasn't had body work done, what does it mean? What is it?
Well, that's a vast question, is it? Because it depends, I guess, on what type of body work. But yeah, in general, it's interesting because body work doesn't have to be hands-on. It sounds very like...
Handsy, yeah.
Particularly that term, does it? Very mechanical body work, right? We're going to pull your leg over here, pull your womb this way. No, but so it really depends, obviously, on what type of modality, you know, whether you're having massage, whether you're having acupuncture, Reiki, you might somewhat, I mean, that's more energy work, but it's still with your body. So, you know, it might also be deemed as body work. So I think it depends on the modality. And I think it's good to try things. Like if you've not, you know, be curious, and also do your research, speak to people. But sometimes you have to sort of try things to know, just like with anything. And when you're working out what you want to do career-wise or what, you know, the same way, I think you have to follow the curiosity, follow inspiration, follow... You know, like I just personally believe, you know, when something is tapping at the door, you know, like you keep seeing this or you keep hearing about, I just think that's messages.
Yes.
Like on a spiritual level, whichever way, it doesn't even have to be that deep. It's like something in your world, in your universe is presenting itself to you. And so, I think follow curiosities and you sort of have to try to know, just like if you know, go to a therapist and, you know, you might you could even have a great session, but actually you feel like maybe that therapist doesn't, you know, quite resonate. And so you need to try something else. So the type of body work that I do it's layered because I've done many trainings over the years. And speak to anyone that knows me, they're like, oh my God, Simone, are you doing another course? But I love training and I always try to sort of train and integrate and train and integrate, but I love learning. So creative healing was the basis, and that is a modality of body work which is about supporting the body to heal naturally. So it's using different massage techniques, but it's also removing heat, creating a vacuum, which all sounds very wordy and mechanical, but it's a very gentle massage, but where it's specific to different places. You know, like there's a fertility treatment, there's a general treatment. They've got all different names. A lot of them are related to the organs. So like a heart treatment, which sounds like surgery in one sense, but it's just massage around points of the heart. One's for the liver, one's for the pancreas, different aspects. So creative healing, I've done, you know, I had to do postpartum massage, pregnancy massage. So creative healing can, you know, support all of that from fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and then sexological body work. So that's more of a term that is like quite new, but you hear the word somatic. Right? So think about it as a somatic work. So that, and then, you know, now in training to be a pelvic specialist and learning with Ellen Heed, and particularly scar tissue remediation. I think I'm really loving and just seeing the benefit of that realm, and my interest and draw to even sexological body work was scar tissue remediation, because I was obviously supporting people through birth and whatnot, and then, you know, people were also coming to me who had previously traumatic births or injuries from birth. So much birth injury and trauma. And so I was like, how do I, you know, support help them afterwards, hold space? So, you know, having birth keeping hat on and then body working hat. But essentially, I think, you have to be curious and, you know, do your research and find out what may be relative. And sometimes you have to try a few things to find out what works for you. But definitely, like, we are human beings, and part of that is touch and connection. Our bodies need to be touched.
You
No
say
man.
absolutely. And then every time I hug her, she flinches.
Because it's different.
You're all like, I'm into body work. Then I touch you and you don't like it. I mean...
your hands are cold. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
No,
I'm giving you
like,
free
Simone's
body work
talking
and you
about
don't
body
even
work.
want it.
Her touch is different. It's not like...
Oh, is it?
It's not like caressing touch.
I see how it is.
It's like an
Simone's
energetic
touch is
touch.
different.
Yeah, you're doing
You
it to
tune
like...
in, my touch is energetic.
It's not. It's,
you just need to tune in.
It's
Groping.
You two are hilarious.
It's a different thing. Anyways.
But yeah, so, you know, and so, yeah, sexological bodywork that, or somatic bodywork, essentially it's educational.
Yeah.
So, you know, in the sessions I am teaching, I'm helping people to, like, you know, maybe we're doing anatomy mapping because many people don't know the difference between what your vulva and your vagina is.
Yeah.
You know, so mapping, and actually part of sovereignty, which, you know, you hear me talk about a lot, is we can't be sovereign over something we don't know what it is.
Absolutely.
You know, and this is like now having a child and having a daughter, for me especially, like my daughter is not 2 yet and she knows what and where her vulva is.
Good.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might be anatomy mapping. So again, I might not necessarily be touching, but I'm inviting my client to, you know, locate this.
Yeah.
So it's educational, but it's about coming into the felt sense, like being able to track sensation in your body, being able to name, not just body parts, but also, you know, maybe feelings, emotions. And there's different exercises we can use. We can do mirror work. But within sexological body work, I can also do hands-on and hands-in work. So, for example, someone that maybe has had a cesarean section, you know, I can do internal scar tissue remediation, which is basically internal massage as well as external massage on scars. And it's not just necessarily as well about massage. It might be helping to release certain muscles so that we can even access, you know, because a lot of the time people come and they're like, oh, I want to work with this, but there's work to do before we can even
get to that.
Some people...
Scars, the fascia gets really thick around
Exactly.
the scars.
And for some people as well, you know, I've had supported clients that have also had, you know, experiences of sexual... you know, sexual ruptures and trauma. And so it might be some sessions before I even put my hands on them because they're just not ready for that. So it's really, body work is so vast, but I think if you've not had anything, you know, what tickles your fancy? Have a feeling, and if you don't know, you can ask people, but you can also, there's so much available out there. Do your research and just start somewhere. You know?
But funny enough, just hearing you speak, obviously we were talking before about midwives and having the doula there, but I think there's also something about body work potentially and what you're saying as well with womb wellness and gynecology, because when you go to the gynecologist, it's a very medical, cold experience. Most of the time it's probably going to be a man of a certain age that you're seeing.
This is true.
I've never had a comfortable gynecological experience. And everything you just said, just about like tuning into your body, and also people that have had perhaps sexual trauma, which I was once at an event that was sort of about that. And it just made me think, like, I find going to the gynecologist traumatic, but imagine if you've gone through sexual trauma and you're going to a gynecologist and...
Who, first of all, even is a man.
Yeah,
and
he's a
had
man.
Trauma caused from a man.
And not that I want to, because there are some gynecologists that are amazing, but sometimes the bedside manner, it's like you're in and out, it's quite rushed, it's all just very, it's clinical. Cold, it's clinical, it's quite scary for a lot of women, and there isn't somebody there that speaks you through it. You just go in, they don't really talk to you sometimes even, it's just like they'll check you, scan you internally, externally, you're in and out. But I think there's something there, like, we need to focus more on the medicine and the medical side of things, but also everything you just said about like body work and tuning in with your womb and like the body work and sexological work you do, that I actually think would be really beneficial for those appointments for women to navigate gynecology better.
And birth. Because it's the same. Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, women that are having hospital births feel that their birth was cold and clinical.
Yeah.
And, you know, and they wanted someone to rub their back, but not necessarily any fault of the midwife. The midwife didn't have time. She was looking after 4 other women, or
on the ward,
and everyone's off sick or whatever it may be. So these things are layered. But absolutely, I agree. Imagine going into a gynecological appointment, and I mean, firstly, being a woman would be nice, but and that's not to say that I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, men and gynecology. Like no shade to med, but also like we need to honor that there's just an experience that we have in our bodies that women that you can't understand, not because you're stupid or you can't learn academically about it, but because it's not a lived and a felt experience. That's just my take, my view, my opinion. But imagine going into a gynecological appointment, set the scene. Hi, how are you? How are you feeling? Is there any words that would be uncomfortable for me to use? What do you refer to your body parts as? What name are you comfortable with me using? What's your intention for the sort of outcome of this appointment? Okay, so I'm going to talk you through it. This is what's going to happen. I'll ask you to get on the bed, and I'll ask you to da-da-da-da-da. So we're still going to go through a medical procedure. But then actually, okay, now you're up on the bed and laying down, just going to invite you to take a few breaths. Like already we've changed the whole
completely
scenario because we're seeing a person and a body on a bed. Like, and don't get me wrong, some might say, all right, deep breath, but it's like deep breath, you're going to feel a cold spectrum, shoved inside your very tight vaginal muscles because you're like, I have no idea you are. And they're like, oh, it shouldn't be too uncomfortable.
How would you know?
So I think again, absolutely bridging worlds, and that's where doula support or having body work, maybe having sessions before, or if you've had issues that have gone on, if you're working through them with a body worker, that actually then you are prepping for your gynecological appointments, and you can even go in and advocate and say, before you touch me, hi, please can you ask me for this, and can you talk to me every step of the way and tell me what you're going to do, ask me what you're going to do before you do it.
Wow.
Good luck to my gynecologist next time.
So just to kind of now bring it full circle, I know we've touched on everything from doulas and gynecological and bodywork and all beautiful things that women experience. I think a takeaway we'd love, I know we mentioned, and I love the metaphor, the garden, the womb garden, womb wellness. I think that is so big, beautiful. It's so big, and I hope more and more young girls, as they go into adolescence and becoming women, that they learn more about the anatomical names of their bodies, full stop. What advice would you give to women whom are either now recognising that their garden may or may not need some mowing, some gardening, some tending to? What techniques? What can they look at? Where do you start with womb wellness? Just a nice bit of advice. Say, look, ladies, this is what we should start looking at. Where would you start?
So I would say very, very simply, going inside and listening, and that could sound complex, but it's not. Lay down, sit down, close your eyes, put your hands on your womb space. What do you feel? What do you notice? Touching your own body is a way of making initial connection. And, to some that could sound like super woo-woo, but no, it's very practical. Literally lay down and you might think like, what could happen? Well, try and see, you might feel like you notice nothing. Now, in bodywork, nothing is something, because nothing can be numbness. And that's something to work through. That means we need to work our way back to sensation. So, just check, starting with yourself. You may not be ready for body work or anything like that, listening in. And then I would say paying attention to your cycle. Now, when I say cycle, I don't mean just like your period, because that's what we often associate it with, and that's when we make that first connection, isn't it? When you get your period. But what is your cycle like? So learning about what even is your cycle, how long is it, and for people also that may have like irregular cycles or maybe are not having cycles yet, what I mean is like tuning into how you feel week to week. So if you don't have a regular cycle, you could just map a 28-day, make notes on your phone of like maybe emotions and sensations that you feel each day. So you can start to, if you do that 3 to 6 months, you can build a picture of like, actually on this week, I'm like that. And then for those that, you know, maybe are having regular cycles, you'll notice when you're, you know, when you start day 1 of your cycle is the first day that you bleed. You'll notice how you feel during that period. When you're pre-ovulation, so just leading up to that, when you're ovulating, after you ovulate, and then in the build up to your cycle. And so that tells you so much about yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where you have to start. It's with you, like a part of who am I as a cyclical being? You know, what is my cyclical nature? And there's so much information
from that.
I just want to say, because I think we now have focused a lot on tech, and apps are great to track your cycle, but it removes, like what you just said, of like tuning in into how you're feeling. That doesn't happen really with an app. So it's great to notice like the days that you are bleeding, but that emotional aspect of, I don't know, am I sleeping right? Do I feel more anxious? Am I nervous? You need to write that down. And that emotional side is something I think we need to tune in to more.
Absolutely. Like,
I agree.
What a way to, you know, kind of bring it all to a close, because as you said, you know, it's tech. It's a ChatGPT or a Flow app or a, you know, yes, we can use things to
hiding my aura.
No, you know, I have got several apps.
I use them too.
On my phone.
But I think it's not to be over reliant. I think it's a great place for you to start and to know, especially if there are issues. But it's like you said, just even good old fashioned notes or pen and paper, just write down 100%. How you feel as well.
Just knowing your body.
And knowing your body.
Very, very
and you'll be surprised
aware.
that after that happens, you'll notice, you know, a lot of women then that I find that I've done some work with, and many people that I've not necessarily worked with, people can feel when they're ovulating, can feel what side they're ovulating.
You're tuning into your body.
From, you know, like, okay, I'm leading up to... you know, leading up to the period, to the bleed, and you know, there's all these feels, and you know, you start to understand your hormones and just who you are, and that's not to say, oh, that's definitive, because especially if you're having, you know, pain, irregular cycles, and you've got inflammatory conditions, that can feel, it can actually also feel really hard. So to mention that as well, you know, because there can be this idea and this feeling of my body isn't working or it's failing me, you know, we still got to listen. But that's when I would say especially get support with it, because sometimes it's too hard by yourself, and we are not meant to be islands. We're meant to be here in connection with each other, to hold space, to be mirrors, to listen, to witness.
Well, I mean, we could keep talking about this
talk to you all day
long, and it's been incredible. Nice. It's been so insightful and hopefully informative and educational for some as well. On the healing equation, we like to ask our guests the same question, and it's kind of a strange question to ask, but it's basically, what is your personal healing equation? So what does that look like to you? What steps make up the ideal, you know, Simone's ideal healing equation?
Oh, I love that. It's great. It's not a strange question to ask at all. I love it.
Strange.
No, it's beautiful, and it causes you to straight away to look inward, doesn't it? And so for me, it is nature comes up straight away, and I think for me that feels like nature and natural. So like my natural state, and like I'm somebody that really recharges in isolation. Being a parent to a toddler, that isn't always easily possible. So for me, it's like really being able to tune into myself, to like hear my own thoughts, feel my own body, you know, and movement, being in nature, and body work. Those are my...
That's your equation.
Those are my things, and I think accompanying all of that is music as well.
I love that.
Incredible.
That's probably one of the best answers we've had.
No, for sure.
Thanks. That's been so nice. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, that's it for today on The Healing Equation. Again, thank you so much, Simone Dyer, for joining us. Where can people find you?
So I have a website, which is themostsacredjourney.com, and all socials the same, The Most Sacred Journey, mainly Instagram and TikTok.
Amazing. And you're London-based?
London-based.
Excellent. And that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time on The Healing Equation. Bye-bye. If you liked today's episode, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Until next time.